Have you ever felt like you were going crazy? Maybe you were going stir crazy. Or maybe you were going the kind of crazy that has to do with bats. Or maybe you were just crazy in love. Perhaps you were going cuckoo, just like this bird. You know, to be honest with you, all of us feel like we're going a little bit crazy inside our houses during the pandemic right now. And it reminds me that sometimes we as Christians can be thought of as crazy by people out in the world. That is, if we are living according to our faith. The reality is, this particular guidebook for our life is not necessarily the most popular guidebook. Sure, it might be number one on the world bestseller list or whatever list that you want to come up with, but the reality is people don't typically live their lives based upon what this Bible actually says, and when they do, they are kind of thought of as a little bit crazy. It reminds me a little bit of how Paul was treated near the end of Acts. Near the end of Acts, he had caused such a stink in sharing the gospel that he got to a point where he was standing before Agrippa, and Agrippa allows Paul to speak in his defense, and Paul begins to share his testimony, and a guy by the name of Festus, who was one of the leaders at the time, began to challenge Paul. And he says this in verse 24. Suddenly Festus shouted, "Paul, you are insane. Too much study has made you crazy." And then Paul replied, "I am not insane, most excellent Festus. What I am saying is the sober truth, and King Agrippa knows about these things. I speak boldly, for I am sure these events are all familiar to him, for they were not done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do." Agrippa interrupted him. "Do you think you can persuade me to become a Christian so quickly?" Sometimes, as a Christian, when we are trying to make disciples of all nations, help people see Jesus for who he really is and become a Christian, sometimes we get the joy of seeing it actually happen, seeing the scales fall from someone's eyes and seeing them to become a Christian, give their lives to Jesus. And sometimes we feel a little bit like Paul in this situation where no matter how much we share our testimony, that there's always people that are out to get us, that are always people like Festus who think we're insane. The reality is, in life, you're going to encounter both kinds of people. My encouragement for you right now, as you are in the middle of this pandemic, is to continue looking for opportunities to talk about Jesus with some of your lost friends and neighbors. Some of you might be afraid to do that because you might be thought of as insane for following Jesus, for believing that Jesus died on the cross for your sins and rose from the dead. But you never know. You never know when you are going to come across people that for whom the scales will fall from their eyes and they will see Jesus for who he really is. So, be like Paul. Be willing to share, even if the Festuses of the world think that you are insane, because you never know when someone is going to become a Christian, because you took the time to take this Bible seriously, to take the gospel seriously, and to take seriously sharing it with other people. Thank you so much for joining us for this quarantine chat. If you want to follow along with everything that we're doing on our channel, simply hit like and subscribe and hit that bell down in the bottom right, and that will help you know when our videos go up, especially when we do live content. We love you guys. We hope you're staying safe out there, and we look forward to the next time that we get to see you.
Small